Good morning, and we're in actually chapter 38, but we're going to start with chapter 25. We're going to go through these other chapters that we're not going to read. You could read these things. They're basically little, what we've seen before up to 25 is different arguments that they're having about why Job is facing what he's facing, and Job trying to defend himself in a way. And so let's just see what it says here. So in chapter 25, I'm going to try to do a quick rundown through the synopsis, or whatever you want to call it, here at the beginning of each chapter, so that we understand who's speaking, what's doing what at these points. And Bildad bemoans the lowly state of man and classifies him as a worm. So Job reproves Bildad's lack of empathy. He extols the power and greatness and strength of the Lord. Job asserts his righteousness. When the wicked are buried in death, terrors will take hold of them. He again is trying to tell these guys, you know what, I'm not as bad as you think I am. This is what the wicked would be like. When wealth comes out of the earth, wisdom cannot be purchased. Fear of the Lord is wisdom, and to depart from evil is understanding. This seems to be, again, Job speaking. One thing that I've started to look at, Job seems to be the one that's supposed to be the one for reason, understanding why people suffer and things like that, but he also can't get away from the thought that following God should be some sort of a blessing, and it is. I mean, we do that anyway in our lives, and he's saying wisdom comes from the Lord, and that's fine, that's true. Sorry, sometimes I take my finger off and it just goes sliding. Job recalls his former prosperity and greatness. He is blessed because of his righteousness, his charity, and his good deeds. You can read these verses. There's so much in these. We could probably spend another week on some of these chapters, but here he's seeing what blessings he still has, it seems. Job is derided by the children of vile, base men. In his afflicted state, he cries to the Lord. Job says that he wept for those in trouble. Job invites judgment so that God may know his integrity. If he has done ill, Job welcomes penalties for so doing. Now Elihu speaks. I think he's the younger one, if I remember right. In anger answers Job and his three friends. Elihu says, there is a spirited man, and the inspiration of the Almighty gives understanding. He also says, great men are not always wise, which is a good thing to remember. It's not just because they've got some power or something, they're not always as wise as you think. I won't even get into the political implications of that at this point. Elihu says, God is greater than man. He speaks to man in dreams and visions. He ransoms those cast into the pit. He delivers their souls and gives them life. I think this sounds really beautiful, some of the things he says here. He ransoms souls, and this is all true. So it's important to remember that. Remember God, and that he loves them. What I think is really interesting about this is how timely it is, in the sense of how people perceive God, in that they tell the truths, and then sometimes their own biases affect how it turns out. Elihu teaches God cannot be unjust, commit iniquity, pervert judgment, or respect persons. Man could bear chastisement and do iniquity no more. Should bear chastisement and do iniquity no more. So again, he says man here, but I think he's kind of saying man like you, Job, should bear this chastisement and do iniquity no more. There's some really good stuff in here, but as we're going through the whole Old Testament, some things are more important than others, and that's what we're going to get to. And the fact that God cannot be unjust is a very important thing. I think that it's important to know these things. This chapter would mean that Elihu is right. Whether he points Job in the right direction is another thing. Elihu contrasts the weakness of men and the power of God. Our wickedness hurts other men, and our righteousness helps them. I love that idea. And man should trust in the Lord. And that's true as well. Some really good things that we can learn if we read these things. And if we had the time, I would still read all of them as well. But we want to get to the rest of the story. Elihu says, those who are righteous are prospered. The wicked perish and die without knowledge. Elihu praises the greatness of God. You start to like Elihu because he doesn't sound the same as the friends that were just basically laying into Job. Elihu concludes saying, the Lord controls the laws of nature. God reigns in terrible majesty. In his conclusion here, he does kind of point out that he thinks, well, God could control whether or not you could have boils. So why do you have boils still? That's what I'm getting from this a little bit. Now we're in where it's no longer the friends, but it's God that speaks to Job. And I think this is a very important thing. I'm going to try to get through the next 3 chapters. If I can. And I'm going to read them pretty fast, because what it is it's 66 questions that the God gives Job. But they're long chapters, so I'm not sure if I can do it. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, who is this that darkeneth the counsels of the words by words without knowledge? Well, who's trying to give you counsel without real understanding of what they're saying? Gird up thy loins like a man, for I will demand of thee, and answer thou me. So he's saying, come on, Job, sit up, I've got to talk to you, and I want you to answer me. Now, if we look here, there's a couple of things to learn. I think what I'll do is I'll do this chapter, and then I'll do the other 2 chapters separate. I can't seem to get that first one. I can't get the things up. what occasion caused the children to shout for joy, which we're going to read in a second? The Lord asked Job to consider who created the earth and where Job was when the earth was created. The Lord then spoke of a time during the premortal existence when the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy. These shouts of joy occurred during the council in heaven when Heavenly Father presented his plan for our progression. Regarding this period, Thomas S. Monson taught, we lived before our birth into mortality. In our premortal state, we were doubtless among the sons and daughters of God who shouted for joy because of the opportunity to come to this challenging yet necessary mortal existence. We knew that our purpose was to gain a physical body, to overcome trials, and to prove that we would keep the commandments of God. So there's that. And now comes the questions, and God asks these questions. The reason why he asked the 66 questions, and I can't seem to get the thing up that I wanted to read, but it's basically for Job to see, well, you're limited in what you understand. This is what I can do. Can you do it? Where wast thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare if thou hast understanding. Who hath laid the measures thereof? He's basically saying that I know these things. Do you know them? Do you understand where these things have come from? If you can, just tell me. I'll let you go along your merry way however you want if you think you understand better than I do. And that happens today. People say, oh, well, I know what, that this is wrong or this is wrong or God can't be true because of this or that. And can they do these things? Let's think about that in our own life. So what I've done is I've put in pink those things that, those questions, those 66 questions in the next few chapters. Who hath laid the measures thereof, if thou knowest, or hath stretched the line upon it? Whereupon are the foundations fastened? Who laid the cornerstone thereof? He's asking, well, did you create the world? Who did that? I did that, didn't I? When the morning stars sang together and the sons of God shouted for joy. He's saying, remember back then? I'm sure you don't remember because I know I'm the one that was there. I'm the one that did these things. Yes, you might have been there as a premortal spirit, but you are not the one that created the world. Or who shut up the seas with the doors when it breaketh forth as if it had issued out of the womb? When I made the cloud and the garment thereof, and the thick darkness and the swaddling band for it, and break up it for my decreed place, and set bars and doors. Remember, this is poetry as well, so just let it flow a little bit. That's what I'm trying to do here. I'm not the best at this, but it is him telling him, wonderful, you guys thought some things out, but let's place our thoughts where they should be. I am the one that created these things. I am larger than anything, than a few boils on the skin. And said hitherto, shalt thou come, but no further, and here shall thy proud waves be stayed. So he created the earth and the he's talking about the creation, isn't he? Hast thou commanded the morning since thy days, and caused the day spring to know his place, that it might take hold of the ends of the earth, and the wicked might be shaken out of it? It is turned as clay to the seal, and they stand as a garment. And from the wicked their light is withholden, and the high arm shall be broken. Hast thou entered into the springs of the sea, or hast thou walked in search of the depth? Can you just go out to the sea and be able to just walk on water? In a way, I guess is what it sounds like a little bit there, but walk in the search of the depth. Have the gates of the dead been opened unto thee? Or hast thou seen the doors of the shadow of death? Hast thou perceived the breadth of the earth, declared if thou knowest it, and knowest it all? Have you been able to actually, you might have been on death's door, felt like you're on death's door, but can you go there and just open the gates? You can't. I can do that, and I can do that for anybody, but not you. Where is the way? Where is the light? Where the light dwelleth? And as for the darkness, where is the place thereof? Do you know where they come from? How they're produced? What should us take it to the bound thereof, that thou shouldest know the pass of the house thereof? I miss that. Knowest thou it, because thou wast then born, or because the number of thy days is great? Do you know that? Do you understand this? Even though just because you're older, do you know all this stuff? No. Hast thou entered into the treasures of the snow, and that's the stores of snow, or hast thou seen the treasures of hail, which thou reserved against the time of trouble, against the day of the battle and war? This seems to really be significant for where I grew up in the mountains, because treasures of snow and hail in the mountains, it stores the water that we need against the time of trouble, or against the summertime when we need the moisture, and it melts down slowly and comes in throughout the summer to help water the valleys. By what way is the light parted, which scattereth the east wind upon the earth? Who hath divided the watercourse from overflowing who hath divided the watercourse before the flowing of waters, or a way for the lightning and of the lightning of thunder, to cause it to rain on the earth where no man is, in the wilderness wherein there is no man? It kind of sounds to me like if a tree falls in the woods and there's no one there to hear it, does it make a noise? Well, if no man's there, why is the water there? Because he can make it, the whole earth, he can have it rain in the wilderness or where man is. It's not just man that he takes care of. He takes care of all of his creations, to satisfy the desolate and waste ground, and cause the bud and tender herb to spring forth. Hath the rain a father, who hath begotten the drops of dew, out of whose room whose womb came the ice, and the hoary frost of heaven? Who hath gendered it? So are you the guys that create? Does man create these things? No, they happen because of me. The waters are hid with a stone, and the face of the deep is frozen. Canst thou bind the weak, sweet influences of Pleiades, or loose the bands of Orion? We're talking about starry things, Orion, the constellations, that's it. Canst thou bring Mazzaroth in his season, and against Arcas with his sons? Arcas, I believe, is the Great Bear, or Ursus Major, I believe, and Minor. So these are different signs or star constellations. Knowest thou the ordinances of heaven? Canst thou set the dominion thereof in the earth? Can you create the stars or change them? Can you change the way that they sit? No, but I could. Canst thou lift up thy voice to the clouds, that abundance of water may cover thee? Canst thou set lightnings, that they may go and say unto thee, Here we are? Who hath put wisdom in the inward parts? Who hath given understanding to the heart? Do you do that? Or is that what I do? Who can number the clouds in wisdom? Or who can stay the bottles of heaven, or the rain? When the dust groweth into hardness, and the clouds cleave fast together, wilt thou hunt and pray for the lion, fill the appetite of the young lions, when they couch in their dens, and abide in the covert to lie in wait? Who provideth for the raven his food, when his young ones cry unto God, they wander for lack of meat? So really strong imagery of why are you putting yourself so far above, and try to explain what I'm doing when you don't even understand just the basics of what I am doing. And we'll talk more about it. He's going to continue with these 66 questions in the next few chapters. I'll do that in the next video.